Hi, welcome to the Pints Polishing Podcast. I'm Marshall. That's Nick and Brian. You can find us at hypercleanstore.com. Go to the HyperClean Specialist group on Facebook. Great place to interact there. And I'm going to be drinking, Brian. Hey, I don't have any beers. It's been a fun week, but listen, Nick rated the rest of all my beers out of the beer fridge, so I'm just stuck to a little Coke today, a little whiskey and Coke. Just enjoy this conversation because this conversation kind of came out of the fun week that we've had, right? It's been interesting. We've had a great little time here at HQ this week, and no, I didn't see any flies on the wall. There were some that wanted to be flies, but nope, no flies. And it was just me and Nick. He was chugging down my good beers, and there was this discussion that happened at the community pub that just kind of started to roll into something that would be great to talk about. So, Brian, man, thanks for coming back on. I appreciate your time. And, hey, let's get into it. There was a question about mentorship. So let's just go ahead and say, how do you define it, right? What do you guys define as mentorship?
Well, I think it's a word that's really thrown around that's not a true mentorship. We talked about it on the pub, that there are mentors and there's people that do it for a living for companies. And then there's people that are willing to help you and answer questions and help your business and be a part of your business life or whatever the case may be. I just think what people think is a mentor, they don't really understand a true mentor, what the money is behind a mentor. It's a business. It's something you hire. It's no different than an accountant or a bookkeeper. I mean, a mentor is somebody you're going to pay generally. Having somebody help you with your business, I think people call them, there's nothing wrong with calling them mentor, but generally, like I said, you can go on the specialist group and you can find plenty of mentors if that's what you're kind of looking for, is people willing to help, answer questions. I said before, it wasn't like that when I was younger, starting my business off. So people are very fortunate now that I think 9 times out of 10, you can pick up a phone, shoot a DM to somebody, and you're going to get an answer. Might not be the answer you like, but it's going to be an answer. So that's kind of where I'm at the mentor word is used very loosely around at least this industry, it seems like. So,
Nick?
Yeah. I think one of the things, we found out Wednesday night was that things are more, guys think somebody's just going to give you every answer to the test, right? I'm going to hook up with someone. They're going to invest in me. They're going to show me the way. They're going to show me how things work. And that's a great thought, but that's not how any of this business stuff kind of works. And you can get yourself in a lot of trouble looking for that, right? So when you think about mentorships that you hear about online in a real estate firm and a financial firm, remember, those people are working for that person. So they're acting as a mentor to their team members, and you're learning a lot from them by working for them. So they're getting something in exchange, right? When you're just calling somebody out of the blue that's running a business, it's kind of hard to think to yourself, that guy's going to be my mentor. I mean, you're not an employee. You're not a team member. My team members get a mentorship in this business every day by just being on the team. I know Brian brought that up, when we were having this discussion on the community pub, but I think what guys are looking for is they think there's a magic bullet that everyone's, gatekeeping and holding on to. And if you just found that one secret to this business through a mentor, it would all be unlocked. I just think it's kind of the wrong philosophy, wrong mentality to have. And like Brian said, I mean, Marty, you've been the same way. I've been the same way. If somebody calls me and has a problem and I can help them out with it, when have you not picked up the phone? When have you not, said, hey, man, yeah, I'll give you 5 minutes. It all kinds of changes, though, when you get into the fact that most people don't listen to the advice. And so it jades people like us at times when you go, man, this guy's called me 5 times. I know he's not listening to anything of what I'm saying. And so you get into this gray area. And that's kind of where I come out on it is, I think there's a lot of people in this industry, good people that do help a lot of guys.
Have you ever, you guys look back? I remember a time where I kind of thought, hey, I should look and seek out somebody to kind of help. And listen, this is a word I used to use when we started doing the podcast, right? I used to use the word guide. I used to look for somebody who maybe would help guide me in the direction that I should go. It seems interesting now, right? Being at our age and you go, looking for somebody to guide you. Like, it was interesting when I did it, though. That was kind of in a different part of my life around a a different part. Nick, you and I sat down this week with a young 28-year-old, and we had this discussion with him, and this exact same point. And we go, hey, listen, there came a time in my life where my life shifted, right? Like what I once thought I was going to do or be, it shifted. And there was a time that I did really look for somebody to, walk me through each step of the way. And, I'd talk to him every day or talk to him once a week, and we would go over things, right? It sounds really interesting, right? It sounds like sign me up. If I'm a young guy and I could just talk to some guy every week or every day and get the information of what I needed to do. I mean, geez, what's wrong with you guys? Let's do it. Let's all have sounds awesome, doesn't it?
Well, I think what you found is a friend. I mean, somebody wants to talk to you every day and hang out and go get breakfast. And that's a friend. If you truly want to deep dive to learn something from somebody every day and be buried in it and learn quickly, like I spoke about on the pub, you go work for somebody. You can't expect somebody to just give you everything and not have anything in return. If you want that life and you want to learn quickly, you go work for somebody. I did it. I mean, it's a weird industry we're in now where people just, I'm going to start running this company. Have you ever done this before? Nah, I started, wash cars in my garage or something, which, I started at 15, but I can just be like, all right, I'm going to start a business. Let's do it. Went and work for somebody, and you will be immersed in it every day. And you still have to pick and choose, okay, well, I don't think this is the right way to go, or this might be wrong, but you just listen. You're not going to sit there and argue with your boss every day, which people do plenty of times. If you want to learn, you go there and immerse yourself in it, whether it's detailing or house painting or whatever the case may be. You want to be a part of it every day. You can't expect somebody to sit around and just every day and be like, all right, what are you doing today? What are you doing with this? Let's do this. And if they are, they're just a good friend of yours. They're willing to help you out.
And that's probably what it kind of boils down to, right? I think a lot of people that are looking for a mentor, ultimately, maybe that is what we're seeking. If we're somebody that is seeking out more of a regular companion that's going to help me through something, I've got to look and go, wow, is that a personal connection that I'm needing, right? Or is that really something that should be for my business? And that's kind of where you're saying, right? Like once somebody starts really looking into it, will they actually do the work? Or were they just looking for that little connection point of just chatting? Nick, we've run into this. Guys that'll just want to chat.
Yeah, I think this is what also gets companies to not have a phone number that you can call for customer service anymore, right? Is because that guy's going to call you up that bought, $20 worth of product and want to take an hour of a customer service agent's time. That's real stuff.
Yep.
So there's a lot of people that don't value someone else's time. We've experienced this. Brian's experienced it. Anybody who's been in business longer than 5 minutes has experienced it. But when you start to reach out to business owners that have had success, they're willing to help to a point. I'm willing to help people that do the work. The minute I see somebody doesn't want to do the work, I'm out, right? Brian has that same experience. Marty, you've had that experience. So there comes this point in time where we all have to understand something, that when everyone's willing to help you out, there's a finite amount of time you have. Now you're on the clock. You've asked for help from somebody that's had success. You don't listen to them a couple times, but you just decide to go a different way and whatever. It's no harm, no foul. I probably wouldn't call them that third time though, right? Because would you do that if you're listening? Would you just keep talking to somebody that's not following your advice? Many guys get pissed off because somebody goes through a car wash. Now imagine somebody that didn't even pay you as a customer calling you the third time, a fifth time, and bitching about the same things and not making any changes. People are not inclined to help you at that point. And so the issue becomes, there are people helping out there. We've done a podcast that's free on the internet for years. Brian, you've helped guys in your local area for years. They're in the same spot doing the same things because they're not getting the advice that they deem they need when they've already gotten all the answers to the test. They just don't want to do the stuff. And that's their right to do that. But then you need to stop worrying about getting a mentor, and you just need to move on and do it your way.
See, it's almost like you say that. It's almost like there's a a cross in the road, right? A Y in the road, a direction that you have to choose one way or the other. But why? I mean, we can all go online and we can look up, if we want to get a mentor, just look up business mentorship. Seems like there's thousands and millions almost that you can choose from. Why not just pick one?
Because it's money. Because that costs money. And that is the worst word in a detailer's life, spending money. People just want it for free or want this, done for me. And like Nick said, they want some sort of secret. Like we're just all sitting around holding on to the secret so nobody else can run a successful business or grow or anything like that. We've talked about it plenty of times. I mean, the biggest thing is just putting the time in and doing the work and committing to it. If you're not willing to do that, it's very hard to succeed and move forward. You can keep doing what you're doing and make your living or whatever the case may be. But as far as growing exponentially or getting where you say you want to be, it's going to be work, and you're going to have to, and it's not just say mentor of a detailer. I mean, I don't think people realize their customer base. A lot of people have customers. If you just listen to them talk and how they carry themselves or what they're doing every day,
all
that's
right,
free.
hold on. Let's unpack that for a little bit. I'm so glad you said that. I had that written down to something to kind of bring up, right? So, Nick, this is something I said to you earlier this week. I go, hey, for me, business, a lot of it was I jumped ship, right? There's a lot of us in this industry. We're this way. We're working for somebody. Guy that came in yesterday and bought some coating from us. Man, I was working for right? I'm working for somebody and I want to make the money myself. I'm that guy too, right? I'm the guy that was working for somebody. I might not have been in our industry, but I wanted to now be my own guy. So I empathize. I do. I understand that person. But it's sink or swim for a moment. You jump ship and it's sink or swim. For me, my mentors, Brian, this is why, my mentors were my customers.
Oh, yeah.
Right? That guy sitting, right? That guy,
Yeah.
He would tell me where the streaks were. He would tell me my windows weren't clean. They would tell me what I wasn't doing and what I was doing. So do you think, Brian, maybe the best mentors are the customers?
Yeah, but you got to listen to them. And you'll see it all the time in the forums that people don't always listen. They're complaining about what a customer says. Oh, this guy bitched about his windows. This guy bitched about this. Or, man, I can't believe he expects me to do this. they're telling you what you need to be doing to make them happy, which is probably 90% of the people that are going to be looking for these things.
Every Friday morning, I had to be at this guy's office, right? Right? You mentioned that about the forums and all these, right? How many of these people would, Nick, asked me that question, right? How many people would take this trip? How many people would do this extra effort, right? How many people would let a customer dictate to them what their schedule is going to be? Brian, right? You mentioned that, right? So many people in groups bitch and moan about their customers. It's crazy. We're in a service-based business.
Right.
What's the definition of service?
Yeah. And it's fun. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, we bitch about people that do this or that and whatever. But I mean, I'm not going on rants about it and just make it. Some of these people make it their life, just like this guy and this guy. I was like, well, who are you happy about? The person that just writes you a check and just never, you don't do anything for it. It's almost like the employee that just wants to get a paycheck, doesn't want to show up to work. I mean, you just turned into the same guy that you complain about as your employee because you want all this money from these customers, but you don't have to do anything for them. You don't want to have to hear any feedback. You don't want to have to hear a complaint. Every complaint is just going to make you better. And it's generally the same stuff. I guarantee you, the people that bitch about customers, it's probably the same complaint across the board. Most customers are saying to them. So why not just fix it? Or just, maybe this isn't for you then. But if you're getting the same complaints, there's probably a reason for it. It's not just because all customers are dicks. It's just because that's what a customer expects out of the job. So you take that in and you listen to it instead of going on,
The best businesses like the pickiest clients.
Right.
Because the pickiest clients tell you where you have to get better. You're not guessing anymore.
Right.
Right. It took me probably about a year to figure that out. Right. I get real upset about the pickiest clients. Oh my God, they're so picky. But when I changed my mindset to like, Okay, well, they picked this apart. Okay, they don't like this. And I started doing everything in my business based on my pickiest clients. My business grew. Now, have you had the picky client 1 out of 100 that's
Sure.
unreasonable? Yeah. But 99 of them aren't. They really aren't. In your career, man, you don't have that many unreasonable people in the scheme of things that you've dealt with. You're talking about well over 60 years of detailing cars in different areas talking on this podcast right now. I haven't had that many unruly customers in,
Right.
in,
Then
in
you get
20
fired.
years. Okay. That I'm like, enough's enough. Have I had them? Yes.
Hmm.
But if you're in business for 2 years and you're constantly complaining about your customers, at that point, it's probably not a customer issue. Because the odds that you have 100 unruly customers when we probably haven't had that many combined in 60 years, guess what, man? There's a problem. And that's okay that there's a problem. But if you're not willing to solve it, you're not really a business owner. It's just what it is. You're just trying to earn some money by quote unquote not working for the man. And that mentality of, and I wish people could have seen me walk away from the conversation Marty had to have at HQ yesterday. Like I listened to 2 sentences and I was like, I'm gone.
I'm out.
I'm out. I mean, Marty was like cracking up when I just walked out of the room and never came back. I was like, I'll let Marty handle this one. Marty's a steady voice at HQ. I'm not always here. I'm out. But that guy didn't do anything differently than we hear or see on every forum or every time we talk to somebody. It was how great he is, how bad everyone else is, how his customers don't understand the worth the greatness he brings to them. And you go, man, I've seen this story for 20 years. You guys have seen it for 20 plus years. This story ends the same place.
But those are the guys that create their greatness. They won't listen to a customer say, well, I really, I want this done on my door jambs wiped or something like that. They won't listen to that, but then they'll spend 20 minutes putting carpet lines in that doesn't even affect most of the time. Customers don't ask for carpet lines, but you won't listen to simple stuff like, hey, can you make sure the mirrors, all the way to the edge of the side mirrors or the glass is clean? Because that gets missed a lot. Yeah, but man, that guy's a dick. He didn't even see the carpet lines I put in.
You know where you see this? Tire shine.
Oh, guys,
I don't like, tires to be shiny. So my customer's going to get what I like.
Right.
Dude, do you know how many different levels of tire shine we put on in a day?
Yeah.
I mean, you guys have experienced this. I don't care what they like. Just put it on there. That's what they like. If they want to look at a glazed donut, I'm going to put a glazed donut on there. Doesn't mean that's what I got on my own personal car. Doesn't mean that that's what I want, but it's not about what I want. If that guy looked at me and said, hey man, I want the shiniest tire on the planet, I'm going to give it to him. It doesn't affect me. That's what he wants. But like Brian said, we've gotten to this point where everybody thinks there's some secret sauce somewhere. There's some secret that everyone's hiding. It's like, no, man, maybe this just isn't for you. And that's okay too. It really is. It's not a negative. But if it is for you and you're convinced it's for you and you're not making a ton of money at this, you should have been making a ton of money the last 3 years in this business. There's never been a boom like we've had in the last 3 years. If you didn't make a ton of money, I think you have your answer, to be honest.
All right. So what's something you guys have each learned from a customer, right? Because if we're looking for a mentor, we're ultimately wanting to learn something. So maybe there's something that we could pass on that they could learn from their customers. For me, I'm just going to reiterate that 7:00 every Thursday morning. And Brian, yes, he continued to pay because I showed up at 7:00 I said Thursday. I didn't mean that, for every Friday morning. I think I said Thursday because I was thinking about my Thursday nights. And how big of a struggle 7 a.m. when I'm, in my early 20s, mid 20s, being at a guy's office or home, and he would text me which place at 7 a.m. every Friday. Didn't matter who had called, didn't matter who had wanted to go out, didn't matter how late I stayed out. I needed to be at his place because I knew what the money was. I knew there would be money again. I knew there'd be more money. I knew there would constantly always be somebody that wants me to clean his or his wife or the rest of his family's vehicles and I valued being able to do away with some personal desires so that I could create a spot in my schedule, life and business schedule, to appease an out of normal working hours time frame for somebody, right? Like, I wanted to really kind of emphasize some of those key points there, because those were out of the box, right? Like, that was something I learned early. Like, if somebody has a value to me as a, for me as a customer to business, or, business customer, that whole relationship, that guy really is going to provide me long-term business. Well, then I did want to make sure that I appeased him, right? I also learned that's the guy I want to appease. And these others that would call out of the blue, right? All of us can we can all empathize with this. You get some random person that wants to fit into a schedule, or somebody that hasn't really done a lot, hasn't really been around in your business a lot. That guy doesn't get worked in. That girl doesn't get worked into the schedule like somebody I know who's going to guarantee me, in a sense, that I'll have business with them on a regular basis. So that's definitely one thing I've learned as a mentorship type thing from customers.
I would say mine was probably when I was working for somebody else when I was first starting. The company I worked for did very well with their, logos and their vehicles. And, this was in the early 90s, mid 90s. And that wasn't something you really saw back then. Even today, you don't always see it. But I would have customers that would compliment us on it, that just, hey, I really like your guys' trucks. You guys really stand out. You look presentable. It's why we call you guys. It wasn't anything I asked. Wasn't anything I ever was concerned about. I was 20, I was 18, 19 years old, and wasn't even crossed my mind. But I listened to that. I listened to a customer telling me that was something they felt good about, and it stuck with me. And it carried over when I started my business. It was the first thing I wanted to do. I want to come with a good logo. I want to make sure I had money to put vinyl on my first truck and make sure it looked presentable and set me apart. And that's just something I got from a customer, just listening to them. I didn't go up to customers and be like, hey, what do you think of these trucks? Or what do you think, this or that? It was just, they saw it, they spoke about it, and it stuck with me. I remembered it. It's, probably the most recent thing that's happened, I would say in the past maybe 2 years, is that we started blowing out vehicles after we did a wash and vacuum. We'd take a blower. I never used blowers probably before 2 years ago.
You'd love to know the fact that Nick used a tornador this week. And
oh boy, we're gonna have to
tornador over the direct air. He's like, oh no, I'll just use this. I'm like, okay, man, cool.
Yeah, it wasn't set up properly. We can call that a Marshall issue. I'm not sure.
Say that. I tried to set it back up the right way.
It's going to take an extra 40 minutes to get to work. So anyway, yeah, I think.
No, I didn't mean to cut you off, Brian. I just thought that was hilarious. So you had people that would tell you to blow out stuff, and
people would complain about dripping. We just started using blowers. I'd never really used them before in the shop, and we started using them in the shop. Then when I built a new rig, I put a spot to have a blower on truck, and now when we go on job sites, we get done washing, we're blowing out mirrors, blowing out door handles, blowing out, the grills. And I've gotten plenty of compliments like, man, this guy's, we've had other stuff done, but then you get all the drips down the doors and this and that. Yeah. And that 3 minutes has created a new step of separating me from somebody else just on a wash and vacuum.
Okay,
they're not big jobs.
How did you take those initial, you would almost say those are customer complaints, would you? So to kind of put some guys into perspective, you had to hear some customers tell you something. You had to not take it, to heart, more take it on the chin.
Sure.
And you had to adapt, right? I think that goes back to the point of what you were saying. There's a lot of guys or gals that want to bitch. They want to go on and complain about customers. What was it about you that you early on, you realized, hey, this person's trying to actually teach me a way to help them? Instead of, oh man, this guy's coming after me and my skills.
Because they have money. Most of my customers had money. I wanted to have money. I didn't want they're obviously there for a reason. They weren't just magically handed money. They had money. They could afford me to come to their house every week. I wanted to be there. So their opinion mattered to me. I mean, there wasn't like, well, this guy's a jerk. This guy doesn't get it, blah, blah, blah. He's paying for me to come to his house to do a service that I can't afford to do. So I wanted to listen to him and I wanted to be better. I mean, there's also pride. I mean, that's the biggest thing with being successful in any business is having pride in what you do. And if you're not proud of something when you get done with it, or if you just don't care, you're just like, I just do this to do it. You're never going to be successful. I don't care whether you're working for somebody or not. You're going to get by. You have to have some sort of pride in it. It's the listening part of a customer that can afford you. I mean, it's not a service nobody needs. I'm not a plumber where the shitter's stuck and he's got to get his plumbing fixed because he needs to be able to flush his toilet. Nobody needs to call me to detail their car. Nobody's dire straits to have their car cleaned. It is a luxury. And those people I'm going to listen to. Now, like Nick said, yeah, there's jerks out there. There's people who are just going to bitch about everything to bitch about everything. You weed those people out. It doesn't happen very often. You can pick them out usually first time you do work for them. And you almost just kind of like, don't take their call. You kind of work them out of a schedule or, whatever the case may be, because you can tell very quickly if somebody's going to be a problem or not.
Yeah. And that's, again, let's make sure we're telling guys the truth. That's 1%.
Right.
You're lucky.
Yeah. Yeah. Like Nick said, it's rare that, I mean, I'll be honest with you, my biggest fear in ceramic coating when I got into it was going to be complaint after complaint about this doesn't work. I paid all this money. I was the main reason I was hesitant getting in ceramic coating years ago. And I think we were talking about the other day, I think we've had one complaint in the past maybe 3 years of someone saying it's not working or this, I'm not happy about this. And the customer never even came in. We said, bring it in. We'll go through the truck and everything. And we never even saw them. They never came in and nothing was going to be charged to them. And the guy wasn't a total jerk about it. He didn't feel like it was working well. But when I told him there was a solution, bring it in, we'll take care of it and make whatever right. We never saw him. Yep. If you do good work and you stand behind it and make people feel comfortable of what you're doing, you're just not going to have problems with people. People aren't just jerks.
Yeah. The vast majority of people, when you walk around, if everybody was jerks, people would just be getting punched at the grocery store all the time. It's just not happening. Just doesn't happen. Like most people are pretty cordial. I was on a flight today. Okay, man, there's hundreds of people on the plane. One or two of the guys are going to be guys that get up when the plane lands and makes everybody's life uncomfortable. It's two guys. There's hundreds of people there. Right? Like, it's not that high of a
percentage. You? Like, dude, what the hell? There's people up here. Get them back.
Oh, I got a story I'll share on Tuesday's episode. That's pretty funny. But anyway, here's what I learned. If you want to deal with the highest quality people, you got to make their life easy. That's what they care about. If I'm extremely busy, as all of you become busier, as your businesses have gotten bigger, as hyperCLEAN's gotten bigger, VR, DIY has gotten bigger. If you have a landscaper come to your house, you're doing that not for the landscaping necessarily, but to make your life easier. You want the shit handled. You don't want that guy not to show up. You don't want that guy, dirtying up your carpet if he's a plumber walking through your house. You just want him to make your life easy, right? What I learned from my clients that I've taken the rest of my life is I do things to make my life easier, to make my family's life easier. And I have long-term people that come around and do services at my house that make my life easier. If they don't show up or they're not that type of person and I got to worry about them, they're not going to be at my house very long. That's every successful person you guys have dealt with. They want to make their life easier and they're hiring you because they do like a clean car. They do like a ceramic coating. They do like PPF, whatever your service you're providing, but you better make it easy on them. Like we see this whole thing about loaner cars. If somebody drops off a $190,000 McLaren, do you think they want to get in a Kia as a loaner car? Let's just be honest. The answer is no. So a loaner car doesn't make their life easier. Why aren't you picking their car up? You don't need loaner cars. You need to pick their car up for them. And people want to sound like, oh, that's crazy. I've been doing that for 10 years. They think they're doing something by doing it now. It's like, dude, I spotted that 5 seconds in. If somebody's busy, they don't have time to hang out at your shop. They don't have time to pick their car up. They don't have time to do all this. They want you to make their life easier. And guess what? They'll pay you whatever it takes, by the way. They're not asking for a deal. So if you say, hey, our pickup and drop off fees $200, they're like, great, that's it. It's like in their head, they're not, even if you did it for free, they wouldn't know that it was free. They just assume you're charging them for it. They're looking to have their life made easier. There's a lot of people in tint, PPF, detailing that don't understand that some of the frustration that people have that you think is a customer being picky is actually because you haven't made their life easier.
All right, so let's unpack that for a second, because there's two things that both of you just talked about that I want to kind of put together and kind of have a discussion around. Brian, you said something that is very common that we hear throughout the industry. Very common. It's a luxury, not a necessity. Then we heard from Nick. Hey, it's a necessity. These customers need it. Right? There is a divider there. Okay? The theory of it's a luxury is common throughout a lot of groups, a lot of people. However, Nick, my college job one time throughout, I had 4 years, right? So I had a couple summers where I worked for a company that I would go and pick up cars. They tinted. Now, of course, they're in PPF and ceramic coatings and all that. But back then, this company only did tint. And I would go pick up cars for them. Earlier today, I got a text from a prospect who has a referral. But before he got his car coated, he wanted to get tint and PPF. The guy that I worked for that did all that extra stuff, guess what? He's still in business. He became somebody that was on the list that I referred to. So, where does this go? Necessity? Oh, it's a necessity for him. Is it a luxury? How do you make something that is, Brian, because you're right, it is a luxury. Nick, we've seen where somebody can just go through a car wash and pay $5, but their car looks trashed and their car will actually receive damage. So to have another person touch a vehicle and clean it in a detailed form, Brian, I get your point. And I get some of the other people's point. It does become a luxury, but how does that also be a necessity? And there becomes the very key point of where we need to be.
I'm offended you disagreed with me, so I can't continue.
I'm hopping off this podcast.
You got throwing the mic off. It is a luxury. It is. But your job as a detailer is to create it a necessity, because it's not a necessity till that person experiences it. Once that person has that experience of getting in a clean car, not having to worry about it, it becomes a necessity. Then they have to have it. It's something people want. It's no different than, somebody getting their nails done or something like that. It's a necessity at that point because they enjoy it. But you have to look at it that you have to earn this business and respect these people and listen to them, because they don't have to do it. But if you created the luxury into a necessity, well, now you're doing things.
Or is that the customer base, Nick?
Well, look.
Well, no, hold on. Let me unpack it, because there are some people that, Brian, to your point, you do have to make it become a necessity. And then there's some customers that it's a necessity for them.
Yeah. Yeah. We're splitting hairs here. It's always going to be a luxury service, but it's our job to make it a necessity. And how does it become a necessity the easiest? You make it easy to do business with you. That's simple. These people don't care. This is one of the funniest things when I see guys lower their price on PPF. You're really lowering your price to get the 20% of people you don't really want. The 80% of people, if you said my full front cost is $24.99 or it's $19.99, that $500 is a big profit thing in PPF. And guys will lower their price and they'll convince themselves that's why they're getting all this business. It's like, no, you're kind of bringing in the 20% riffraff that you're going to have the most problems with, that you're going to have these issues that you want out of your business, right? So if you were picking people's cars up, if you were making it easy to do business with, not only would they pay $24.99, but they'll probably pay $29.99. They don't have to drop it off at your shop. They want it on their car, right? They want a coating on their car. It's not about the money. There's too many guys that think this is all about money. I bet Brian is a lot like me. 90% of the people he talks to don't bitch about the price. They don't bring up the price as a problem. The problem that they probably have is, when can I get there? I'm going to have to be without my car this amount of time. Okay, I got to have my wife pick me up, or one of my team members pick me up, or whatever. That's fine, but it's not a price issue. There's too many people that think what you're fighting is a price issue. Now, look, when I started my career, when you guys started your career, and you were working yourself through that lower middle class family, and you were trying to grow into more of the higher end customer, yeah, you dealt with that. But that's a very tiny part of your business. If you're in business 20 years, you're not down there for very long. You're getting into the nicer neighborhoods, so to speak. And that's been, I've never seen a detailer just be in the lower end their whole career.
Okay, but you have to, right? Let's go back to that point. There had to be a point. You specifically mentioned somewhere in your career, you dealt with this type, as Brian said, these people that are looking for this way. Eventually, you're right. And that's what I think everybody that's listening hopes to, right? Most of us, I would think, would want to be around for a long point in time. So how do we get to that point, right? Like, if we were in this other direction, we got to move over to that.
Because you got to stop taking every complaint to heart that someone's being a jerk to you. It's just not the case. It's just not the case. But I guarantee the same person that's going on the forum and complaining and losing it, that this customer did that and that, I guarantee when that face-to-face time happened with that customer, it was not very professional at all. Guarantee there's, eye rolling and huffing and puffing and, ignoring the customer when he kind of walking away. I guarantee it wasn't like, oh, okay, sir, I appreciate it, and we'll try to get this right and this and that. I guarantee it wasn't a very good interaction with that customer.
So that same guy doesn't want that interaction, doesn't have a good interaction. And ultimately, then I guess we're going to say most people don't want mentors then.
Oh,
well, no, because a lot of people.
Yeah, I think, Brian, I can say this, and Marty, you can say this. I think everybody believes they want help. In my career, what I've seen is most people that have called me for help never planned on listening to whatever I said. They were trying to get me to agree with whatever their theory was. And that's fine. It's your business. Stop picking up the phone and calling guys, because what you're doing is ruining your reputation. You're burning bridges. We've all had bridges. I mean, especially Marty, you and I, and probably Brian the last 3 years. People have reached out more. They feel more comfortable DMing you. They feel more comfortable sending an email. They don't realize how many bridges get burnt because guys like us can pick up on, hey, man, you really didn't want any help. You wanted me to agree with you. We see this on the pub all the time. Somebody will bring up an issue. He's hoping everybody on the pub's going to agree with them. Nobody agrees with them. They get quiet, right? Because nobody was bashing them. They're just saying, hey, I see things a different way. One of the things I think we don't talk about enough in business is I don't think guys have thick enough skin.
Absolutely.
I mean, Marty, do you think if most people would see some of the things that people say about the podcast, or leave a 2-star review for no reason other than he doesn't like that we talk about something other than detailing for 3 minutes, that would affect a lot of guys. Instead, you and I are kind of like, okay, man, like, what are we supposed to do? So you got to also have some thick skin.
So thick skin, what are you supposed to do? That's why I'm glad you said that. Critique is a little different, Brian, as sort of what we were talking about, customer service, somebody has an issue. Critique is one thing. Somebody lobbying and somebody saying, hey, right? That is a different thing. And so many of us kind of get into that point where we go, wait, I got to have thick skin when people come and throw things at me of what they think that we should be doing. I don't think of it as thick skin as in somebody's trying to, take away. I think of it as more of that ebb and flow, more of that, okay, well, explain to me a little bit more what you're, and then hopefully we can get to that place where we both agree. And I guess maybe that's the way I think of thick skin. And that's the way I think of these moments of realizing if I'm a guy that is trying to run a business and I have customers that have an issue, right? If I have somebody that has an issue, I got to make sure that that issue is valid and I got to make sure that he's handled. That's something that a mentor never told me. The mentor is going to say, hey, take care of your customers. Do great by your customer. Like, this is what we hear throughout the industry, throughout these, online quote unquote mentors. So I want to ask you guys this. What do you think is the ultimate problem with guys today? We're seeking a mentor. We're seeking answers. We're seeking help. And you want to give an answer. Is there an answer to people's problems?
Well, I think people want to argue. I mean, Nick and I have talked about this before. People just want to inherently argue with you at times, especially when they reached out to you. You obviously saw some sort of value in me and you reached out. It's like say you have a heart attack. You go to the hospital. Doctor's like, look, you got to lose weight. You got to do this and you got to do that. And you're laying in that bed after having a heart attack and you start going, well, I don't think the losing weight thing is really going to be the issue. And I don't think, I was reading this and I don't think that. And, I just don't think that's the direction I need to be going.
So why do you go to the hospital?
Yeah, well, then the doctor's not going to argue with these and be like, all right, see you next time. If you don't value somebody's opinion, then why are you asking it? And just don't waste people's time. And like Nick says all the time, just listen. It's so hard for people just to listen to somebody. It's like they have to get their 2 cents in on a question that they asked. I mean, it's fine if you don't understand. Okay, could you explain it further with me? Can you do this or that? But to sit there and just argue about a question that you asked me and I'm trying to answer it for you. I only have one answer. I don't have multiple scenarios of this answer. All I have is one answer to try to help you. And I'll be honest with you, it might not be the right answer all the time. I'm not perfect. I don't know everything, but you just take it with a grain of salt and figure out if it suits you. And if it doesn't, it doesn't.
So let me throw this to you, Brian, because Nick and I talk about this a lot, right? It's hard to know who you're supposed to get the right answers from.
Well, I think it's
right. So then if somebody we're just going to tell people to, hey, just ask questions and get the answers and listen. But then at the same time, it's hard to know if those answers are right. So this is why a kid or somebody's going, hey, I need a mentor. Are they ultimately saying, hey, I need the right answers that are pure, that are correct?
Well, I think it's you do your due diligence like we talked about before. I mean, I do my due diligence about whose time I'm going to waste my time on. I don't sit there and continue talking to somebody, know they're not getting it. They're not going to change. Like Nick said, they're going to keep doing the same thing, going down the same road. Well, I'm doing my due diligence, or I can see people right off the bat and look at what they do and how they've been doing things. And they've been in business for so long. They're probably not changing. They've argued with this guy before. I saw him on this forum arguing about this. I saw him on this forum arguing about that or bitching about this and telling this guy he's wrong. I'm probably not going to pick up the phone from that guy. I'm not going to, go above and beyond for that person because inherently that's what they're doing.
And this goes back to a topic we hit on a couple months ago, I think, which was, man, your reputation's everything. The guys that have burnt the most bridges, we all know who they are. They've called enough people and, you call Brian and go, hey, have you talked to so-and-so? Oh, you talked to that guy? It's like, you don't realize something, man. Everybody starts to share these bad experiences. They start to share these things with one another. And I think this is the thing that we can all walk away from in this topic. Guys like us, I have no problem giving you my 2 cents if you ask for it and tell you how I see whatever question you're asking about this business. I'll give you my take on it. You are free to take that advice. You're free to get off the phone and go, I don't think that's going to work for me. There's no harm, no foul. But don't expect people to keep doing things and you not listen and you keep wasting your time and you keep thinking that people owe you something. There's a mentality there that the world owes you something. The world doesn't owe me anything. You all listening don't owe me anything, but I also don't owe you anything. That's the relationship here. Nobody owes anybody. Okay? We're all in this voluntarily on the podcast. You're voluntarily listening. We're voluntarily putting information out. We hope you enjoy it. If you don't, you don't. If you go leave a 5-star review, awesome, man. If you go leave a nonsensical 2-star review, you're never ever going to be.
I'm going to make fun of you, and I'm going to chase rabbits, right? Like that's what
we're going to make fun of you. And by the way, we'll get texts of other people making fun of you. See, you think you're doing a service to the world, and what's actually happening is everybody in the know's having a chuckle on your behalf. This is what we talked about on Wednesday night. I think a lot of guys in this business need to learn how to have a laugh about all this. We're detailing cars, man. It's not life and death. You're not saving people's life with brain surgery. Like, you need to have a laugh about some of this stuff, and you need to just lighten up a little bit, open your ears, shut your mouth a little bit more. I'm in the same boat. Everyone on here, I get around somebody that's really smart, man, I get really quiet. I get really freaking quiet because I want to know what they know. There's too many guys that don't understand. There's times when you're the expert in the room and you should be talking. There's other times, which is far more often, that you're not the expert in that room, that you could learn from a lot of really cool people. And that'll be noticed. Just like it's noticed on a phone call with Brian when he tells a guy a 3-sentence piece of advice and he gets 10 sentences of argument. He notices that. You called him. You spent 15 minutes arguing. He spent 1 minute giving you advice. What's the likelihood he's going to pick up the phone the next time?
But
it's pretty simple.
All this carries over. Everything you just said about a mentor carries right over into a customer. Customers talk to each other. Customers pick up quickly how you're going to treat them. Customers are going to remember, if you argued about this or that, they're going to go talk to somebody. They're going to laugh at you. They're going to be like, man, I called this guy and I asked him, hey, the back window wasn't clean and he got all huffy puffy about it. And, can you believe that shit? I paid him $150 and he's had one little thing. He kind of stormed off.
Yep.
Well, that guy's probably not going to call you again. Well, he's already talked to 4 people at the country club about this shit experience because that's what he's selling today is asshole detailers. And he's going to talk to these guys. Those are people that you definitely don't want rambling on about you and complaining about you.
And a way to look at this? This is why restaurants take off or they don't.
Sure.
We all have restaurants in our area that you're like, man, that restaurant just took off. How many of those restaurants took off and all your buddies are like, dude, service is crap? None of those restaurants take off. You walk into that brand new restaurant, their service is on point. The food almost becomes irrelevant. You're like, yeah, food was all right, but dude, we were in and out. They were so nice. I'm going to go back there. The food will get better. You've heard this before. The food will get better. They just opened up. The food will get better. They'll get that figured out. If the service is on point, you're telling your buddies, and we try to tell guys this all the time, rich people have rich people friends. And that's who they're talking to is other rich people. They're not talking to the mailman bashing you. They're talking to their other rich friends bashing you. So this happens. You go play golf with somebody for 4 hours. You got a lot of time, right? As a rich person to talk to somebody. Hey, what restaurants you been eating at? I've been eating here. Hey, you know what? I saw your car was kind of clean. Who you using? That's how this shit happens. You guys can think it happens a different way. This is how it happens.
And so let's talk about that for a second. And let's get to our closing thoughts. But to reiterate that, Nick, connections. Because, Brian, some people might listen. They might go, yeah, but my customers. So when you start getting up to more of the elite, when you start getting up in the classes, that upper middle class, the upper class, the lower upper class to the very upper class, right? It really does. Life becomes about connections. We say it on this other side of, hey, it's not what you know, it's who you know. The upper class is going, not anything about what you know. They're only going, hey, it's who you know. They're not questioning what you know. It's really only becomes who you know. They know something. So it
the
really
elite
then
people in your
becomes a
area,
connection.
like think about this. The elite people in your area are not finding anybody to work at their house that isn't a referral. This is what we
Yeah.
talk about all the time.
Bingo.
Oh, do SEO, do
Nope.
Instagram ads and Facebook ads. We were in a couple nice neighborhoods there in Tulsa. How many of those guys that you do business with is going to find somebody off an Instagram ad? Now, that's what some people in this industry want to lead you to believe. I got news for you. They've never done business with people worth hundreds of millions of dollars. That's just factually the reality. And even 50 million, 10 million, those people are getting all of their references to everything they want to do in life from the people they know. Their insurance agent, even if they have a travel broker, if they have a jet guy, they want to charter a jet they're not going on and Googling who to use. They're tagging in their friends and saying, hey, I know you took your family on this vacation. Who'd you guys use to book all that stuff? It isn't just detailing, man, and it isn't me guessing. And this is where I would get argument. And I have gotten argument from some internet guys. They're like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. It's like, how many 100 millionaires are you doing business with, dog? The answer is none. You know how many you even know? Who's in your phone that's worth $500 million? Give me their phone number. Well, I don't have that, but you know how they act, right? Because you know about the internet. So we've given these nuggets out. This has been a topic of conversation for years on this podcast. When you get up to the elite, it's your reputation. That's all it's ever going to be. And it may burn really slowly. You know what I mean? You may not grow as fast. But when you get those elite clients and it starts to spread through them and you do great service, they're never going to go somewhere else. They're not. And you're just going to keep getting referrals.
And that's what you said, though, service. Your service needs to become elite as you grow. To be able to detail for elite people, your service needs to become elite. It needs to grow as you go from doing the minivan, cleaning out all the crayons and crap, and then stepping up. But your service is going to change. You're not going to be able to keep providing the same, well, we're just getting through this real quick or wiping this down. Once you start working on cars that aren't dirty, your service has to become more elite, and there has to be more things that stand out that you do, because elite people don't have dirty cars. They're fairly clean. That doesn't mean you open the door, shut door, do nothing. Well, you're finding stuff to do. Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and, hey, he's got a little coffee in the cup holder. I'm going to take a second, clean that out. Or these vents got a little dust. I'm going to hit them out. And people are like, well, I don't do that for, I don't do that for a mini detail. That's an upgrade. That's vent cleaning. That's $25.16. And you have to understand that your service has to become better and more special to that customer to appreciate it and to justify paying you what you want to be paid, because there are going to be things there's going to be hangups. Look, there's going to be people that call you and be like, crap, man, I just like we're talking about that. I got to get this car done today. I didn't know I had to be there. Okay, well, I'm probably going to drop what I'm doing because this guy pays me a lot of money all year long. I anticipate that because those people expect that kind of service. They expect to be able to call you up because something happened and have you there at a drop of a hat. I have plenty of people like, well, what do you do when somebody just calls you for this and just out of the blue? Well, if they're a big customer, that's what they do, and that's okay. Because I have it, I don't want to say it's built in, but it's kind of built in.
Yep. The stuff when you get into elite that Brian's talking about, you got to bend over backwards for these people, right? Like that's the thing people don't realize. They call you at the drop of a hat. I'm going to fit them in. You want to know why? They're going to spend $60,000 with my business in a year. They're going to spend $50,000 with my business. They're going to spend, $20,000 with my business in a year. We get down to this place and guys want to get into the elite. I got news for you, man. If you have a problem with the mom with the minivan, you get into the elite and the things that they'll start asking you to do, you're not going to be able to handle it. I mean, plain and simple. Like cleaning a dirty minivan is not the most enjoyable detailing experience. But from a customer's perspective, they're going to be a lot less demanding than what the elite people are. And they're not being demanding about being a jerk. They're just busy. They want their car back. They want to enjoy their car. They want to you know what I mean? Like they're not being demanding out of a jerk mentality. They have such a busy life. They don't have time for all this, but they do want your service.
Absolutely. So when we're thinking about mentorship, we're thinking about customer service, we got to come up with a final thought. What's your final thoughts? Go whatever direction your mind wants to go. tell people to go to mentors, tell them to go away. What are your final thoughts around the idea of mentorship?
I think it's just an overused word that might lead people down the wrong road, feeling that they don't have a mentor or they need a mentor. I don't think anybody needs a mentor. You just need to take the initiative to find people that are good people to ask questions or reach out to or bounce ideas off of, or, you just got to get that good group of network of people. It's not, if you want a mentor, like Marty said, you got to get a mentor. You got to open that checkbook out, call them up, get a mentor in your business and get going. But that's going to cost you probably $15,000, $20,000 a month. I mean, it's not, and they're not going to hold your hand. They're not calling you every day. They're not checking in on you. They're going to tell you this way it's going to be. You need to do this. And this is the program that's going to take you here. And we're going to go through all your stuff. I mean, it's a whole different world. You just need to surround yourself with good people, but you got to make sure you're doing your due diligence to figure out that they are decent people. Do they have a reputable business? Have they been in business for a while? Is what they say all smoke and mirrors? Are they the ones that are arguing with everybody online and telling people they're wrong or bitching and moaning? Unfortunately, most people that you want to hear from, you don't hear from. The people you really want to talk to and get information from, they're not out there saying much. And so I think a lot of people think, well, those guys must not be very good at what they do. They're never, griping on the forums or preaching or telling people the way they should do stuff or what it should be like and this and that. So it can be tough, but there's a lot of mentorship just online, like the podcast or, specialist group. I mean, you just go in there and dig around. You can go and use search function like any Facebook, forum and check a question and take your own initiative. It's just tough to sit there and say everybody needs a mentor to get them through this job. Cause I'm a firm believer. Everybody should work for somebody before you've done this. I don't think anybody should just all of a sudden be like, I'm just going to go for it. You can, if you just want to make some money and you want to work for yourself. But if you really want to be good at this, I truly believe you should go and work for somebody to see how this works and see how a company runs, and obviously make sure it's a company that's been around for a while, see what's going on with it. But there's so much to learn and you can learn and get paid. So to a certain extent, yeah, I can't, the people that just go out there and want people to help them run a business and start their business and they haven't really put much work into it, it's kind of hard to bend over backwards for those people. I just think that, what's 2 years of your life, 3 years of your life to go and work for somebody if you want to do this seriously as a living. Because let me tell you,
everyone's paying now too.
Yeah, you make good money, and the training you're going to get is going to be exponentially faster than you'll ever do by yourself or calling me and, hey, what do you think I should do with this? Blah blah blah. It's going to help you drastically. You might end up being really good at it, enjoying it, and be like, yeah, I like this going home at 5:00 and not having to worry about crap or making sure we have jobs for the week and all this. I'm making good money and I just get to clock in and clock out, do what I love. And maybe I don't want to start this business, or maybe we'll go start your business and be like, this is not what I thought it was. I think I want to go back, work for somebody. I really think I can make this into a good career. There's just a lot of opportunities out there to, be a mentor. And I'm not saying if once you start working for somebody, your boss might become your mentor. They might be your mentor. Once you leave, most bosses, after you've worked for them for a while, they get it. If you want to go work for yourself, they're not going to be like, screw you, this or that, unless you're spiteful. If you're like, I'm going to take all your customers in, or you've been doing backhanded stuff for a year with a company. I mean, it's good to be in that network of people because most people are pretty understanding, pretty helpful. This is a business that people either make a career out of or they're going to go work for themselves. But if you're just going to jump in and I'm going to start a detailing company today and I'm going to get a truck and I'm going to do all this, well, I need a mentor to help me do all this. Can someone, call me up and show me how to run this business that I just started on a whim?
Stop gatekeeping.
Stop keeping the secrets.
It's like I'll say my final thought is this: everything's available for money.
Sure.
You can definitely find great people that can help you build a big business. That starts at 10, 15, 20,000 a month. And I think a lot of people that pick up the phone and think they want a mentor don't realize that mentorship costs something. What Brian's saying is you can get a mentorship by working for somebody and be paid. And guess what? That guy's more likely to help you out because he's getting something from you and you're getting something from him. So we get in this world where a lot of guys want to call themselves business owners, but they don't ever want to cut big boy checks. And that's the problem, is that all this stuff in business, let me be clear. The reason I hate the words passion and all this other nonsense, work hard, is because it leaves out the biggest word, which is money. When you run a business, everything costs you money first and foremost. So if you don't have the money, you can't do it. If Brian has a bad month and he doesn't plan for a bad month and he can't pay his guys leave. Because guess what? It's about money. Well, they just love what they do. No, they love that Brian pays them. Then they love what they do. And so all you guys looking for something, I get it. But like Brian said, you got the specialist group, the podcast, you can reach out to good people in this industry. They'll help you. You take advantage of them, you're going to get cut off. You're going to get cut out. And that's not going to come back to you a second time. So mentorship is overused, like Brian said. But let me tell you, I've had no problem helping somebody if they genuinely want help. I think that's the minority, though, right? And so if you want a mentorship and you want somebody to help your business, be ready to cut a check, because that's what this is all about. Or you got to plug into these free avenues and you got to draw as much out of that as you can. Okay? There's two options here. But just thinking somebody's going to spend all this time for you and get nothing out of it, I don't think you would do that for somebody. If you're listening and you think you would, when you have some success, I think your mindset will change a little bit, and you'll think that your time is so valuable that you want to spend it with other valuable people.
Yeah. And I would say my closing thoughts are, I'll tie back into that dinner that we had with a 28-year-old, right? He's a 20-year-old going, hey, let's start there. He approached me with something that he wanted. How did this 28-year-old get to have a meeting with me and you and have dinner? Because, well, when he was 16, he walked over to me at a 4th of July event inside of my neighborhood that we always go and attend. And I would have been smoking a brisket. That was back when I was eating all the good stuff. Pulled pork, brisket, all that great stuff. And, he's enjoying all the barbecue. His family's enjoying it. And then he walks over and he goes, man, I need a job. It was a long time ago. So to your point, Brian, right? To your point, now, after years of working and making a great living, he's been detailing for me for a long time, gets to have a meeting to go, hey, I want to learn what's next. And not only have him and I been going through stuff, and him and I have been going over, and this is the part that I think is interesting. When people ask me, hey, what, right? And you can fill in the blank. I'll usually give them some links. Here, go listen to this. Hey, here's a good book on this. Hey, here's a podcast we recently did. Hey, here's this. It's the guys that come back after they've digested the information that then, for me, they get the next. For me, then, this guy gets to sit down and meet with you. Take your time, Nick, because I had to ask you for your time. How did that guy get that versus the guys that just want? All good. He wanted to. But it does become the fact that when you want something, there becomes a perseverance of that want. And the perseverance of the want is the work day to day. You want to learn something? Great. Here's a book. Here's a podcast. Go learn. Go learn. Go learn. Go do. Go do. And then we'll have a talk about what can you build and grow and do next. So I think that to me is the ultimate thing when I think of mentorship. The way guys should think about mentorship or learning or grabbing the next information of their piece of the puzzle. It's if you're going to get something from somebody that wants to give you a piece, you better take that little piece that they give you and do as much with it as you can. Once you do as much with it as you can, then you can go back and ask for the next piece. So great, multiple perspectives. Love the different perspectives that come out of this. Great talk, guys. Here's to community. And here's to everybody that goes into the community pub. They get these great little discussions. We're thankful for everybody listening. You guys have a great day.
All right, guys.